Morningo.
Morning.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Youngstown's Talk Channel. Joe and Kelin here. I'm pissed off today, so this is going to be a good one. I get to rant a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And I get to declare states of emergency as well.
You get to take your soapbox and boom.
Oh, yeah. All right.
There it is.
You get first strike.
All right. Mine's just a minimal little PSA, just a little, I got to get this out.
Yeah.
Because I'm so sick of how often this happens to me. I think it goes without saying, this is not a brand new idea. We all need to get better at distracted driving, myself included. I cannot believe how often I am driving and the car coming at me, opposite lane, oncoming traffic, crosses left of center, right at me head on.
Yep.
Happened twice yesterday. Several months ago happened. My son and I were in the car. That scared the bejesus out of him. This is so often it ticks me off because every single time this happens, thank God they were far enough away to realize what they did, look up, correct it, and not slam into us. And then I get closer and I see them do this again on their effing phones. I feel like the next time a car crosses left of center and almost hits me head on because they were on a cell phone, I'm going to follow them and I'm going to beat the living tar out of them.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. People don't have tar in them, by the way.
That'll make it easier.
You might get juices.
I censored the word I wanted to use.
Okay. What word did you want to use?
Beat the living shit out of them.
Okay. You might get that out, but that's not the most likely extraction.
Definitely not be the most hygienic.
Yeah. You do. Why would you want that?
I don't know. I mean, if it teaches them a lesson.
You think they'll be all embarrassed that they crap themselves because of your beating?
I hope so. I hope so. I'd be like, think about that. Next time your phone is more important than my life or my child's life or anyone else. Idiots.
Okay.
Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Put the phone down. Just put it down.
Okay.
The more you know. Dun, 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 dun.
Kelin says it and she's willing to beat the snot out of you too.
Yes.
The snot and the crap and the tar.
Fair warning.
All coming out. So
if you almost hit me because you're on your phone, I will beat whatever out of you I can get.
Unintended consequence. What if someone's kind of constipated and nothing else is working? They're like, oh, Kelin said that if I just do this, she'll help me with my my little digestive problem.
You do it, you'll get it.
Okay. All right. You might get more than you're asking for. All right. Let's talk about
which is funny. I've never punched a person in my life.
Yeah. Talk a big game here.
I would hurt myself.
There's people over there, the person that you ran into, and they're sitting there staring at you.
I wouldn't even know what to do.
Chewing on their knife. And
really, I'd give you a verbal beating.
Or you would just leave. Or you would cry in the bathroom.
Probably.
Okay.
Anywho.
All right. Jimmy Kimmel. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes. So after a couple of back and forths with administration officials, the president himself saying that if these networks keep saying what they're saying, they're going to use the FCC to, buckle down on non-truths on these programs, right? Whether it be their news editorial, whether it be their comedy and late night packages. What are your thoughts on the government flexing its muscle to control speech?
First of all, did the government flex its muscle in this case?
So, yes and no. Okay. So I listened to the FCC director on media last night, and he was very clear that he was going to, and so basically the parent group that owns the CBS network and the distribution of the licensed material are looking to do a merger, right? Which requires FCC blessing in order for those mergers to happen. And if the FCC guy says you can either play nice or you can make this hard, is a veiled threat that if you don't do what we're asking you to do, that merger that you want. So the parenting company is like, what's more important to me? Kimmel, right? Or buying up these news stations and getting the blessing from the federal government. So the decision was made, right? And it was in the interest of the company that made that decision to get rid of Kimmel.
So I have mixed feelings on this.
Go ahead.
I'll be honest. First gut reaction, wasn't hating it. And yes, I have a bias. I am a Charlie Kirk fan. I don't like people saying mean things about him or people in general. I got real disgusted with anyone that had the nerve to speak ill so soon. Whether you like him or not, I'm not faulting anyone for not liking him. I'm saying a horrific tragedy occurred. And if you speak ill of that tragedy so soon, to me, that's a dumb move. I think you're really, really, really playing a risky game there when you know how divided people are on this topic. You took a gamble and you lost. I'm not going to feel bad for you. Having said that, I also very much don't like the idea of censorship, getting in trouble for speaking your mind. We've seen this a lot. There's a lot of hypocrisy in this of, oh, well, you canceled this person, but this person's allowed to do that and yada, yada, yada. And if it is coming down to the government saying you can't say that, that doesn't sit right with me. That's like, we're America and we're allowed to say whatever we want to say. You know, the whole reason people got upset about the Charlie Kirk murder is he's allowed to say whatever he wants to say and not be killed. You can say whatever you want to say in America with reason, not talking about anything threatening and things like that, and not face serious legal consequences. However, there are consequences to things you do and say, especially on a public stage. You can't just say whatever you want, and if your boss doesn't like it, you're protected. That's not how it works. You can get fired for a lot of things if your boss doesn't like it. So it is sort of this weird line that we walk of consequences, what constitutes facing one. Like I said, if it were just simply the owners of the organization, the business people were like, I don't like that. I think we're in a very divided time right now. And I think you're perpetuating that. And I choose not to. You're gone. That's one thing. If it's the government saying we're going to silence you and anybody who talks that way, that's another. And I feel differently about those two situations.
Okay. Well, you just said you can't have, right? You can't. Because you have two things. You have natural consequences, which we all just sit back and watch something that's supposed to happen. You have a speeder, he gets pulled over. You think that's a natural consequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have artificial consequences, right? So a big customer comes to me and says, hey, that Kelin that works here, I really don't like her, and we'll only do business with you if you get rid of Kelin. Now, there's the consequences that it was artificial, because now you're going to have a consequence. You did something. I don't really dislike it, but somebody outside pressured me to get rid of you. How are you going to feel about it? What would you give to me, like the advice to me, whether or not I should pick you over them? The natural consequence, if they don't like you, then they don't have to do business with you. They can say, like, don't send Kelin, or we're not ever buying Kelin's whatever, crafty work you're putting together. That would be a natural consequence. But if they're like, I don't like their, and I have the power to control Joe's actions to get rid of Kelin, and I flex that power to get rid of you, nothing illegal happened.
Right.
A consequence happened. You did something they didn't like. They flexed their power. They forced me to get rid of you. And now that's still a consequence.
Yeah.
And somebody might argue that, well, Kelin shouldn't have said that thing to make them mad.
Yeah.
To leverage me.
It's not a fair thing. It happens.
So in the 90s, when I was first getting started, I had a lot of those leverage actions, because it was just at the tail end of the mafia exposure and the organized crime here in Youngstown. And so there was a bunch of like me getting started. I was dealing with people. I wanted to expand my business and get new customers. So in order for me to get a new customer, this guy over here would say something like, if you want to do business with this group of people, then you're going to do XYZ for me. They use their leverage. I wanted the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can leverage on the positive side and you can leverage on the negative side, you can control the actions of other people. So you can't have that, because as soon as you have that, people are going to use their power in order to make inauthentic consequences happen, and they're unfair to the person who they're being delivered to.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be similar to an employee of a business doing or saying something, and then the general public starts to boycott that business because they didn't like it?
That's exactly
well, now
right.
the owner is like, I'm losing money. We're going to go out of business. What do I do to get customers back? Get rid of you. That's a tough decision probably for that business owner.
Okay. So if, let's just say an ice cream manufacturer, I disagree with their politics. So I'm like, I don't agree with them. I don't want to give money. So I stop buying them.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, okay, well, it's just me. I want them to feel more pain. So I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to try to inspire other people to do the same and do a boycott. It's inauthentic because those people didn't have that idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
It only came because I then suggested to them that they should do the same thing. So if I didn't do anything, the natural consequence would be they would lose my business because they offended me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I take that a step further, that I'm not getting enough outrage still, then I start a deliberate strategy to cause enough pain on them that my vengeance is satisfied because I disagreed with those. And then you get this ramp up where they didn't feel enough pain. So I'm going to declare that we're in a civil war right now. Okay. And this is sort of like the symptoms and evidence of, this is sort of like guerrilla warfare. This isn't like, the North and the South lining up and, big groups of people taking aim at one another.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of individual Viet Cong style guerrilla, knowing that they're outmaneuvered, outnumbered, outgunned in every respect. And each of them individually has decided that since you can't fight the proper way or the way with honor, I'm going to try to injure you. I'm going to make, booby traps, and I'm going to ambush you and all that kind of stuff. So the strategy of terrorism, right, has infiltrated individuals, and they're using the same guerrilla warfare type tactics against people. And when they escalate it, the grander the kill count, the more people you can get fired, the more people you can get canceled. And if there's not enough outrage, I'll keep piling on. So this is okay. So if somebody took aim at you and they didn't like you, you would hope that your fellow man would not be a proxy to injure you willingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But through the veil of politics and the tribalism that exists, we will very easily take another human being and dismiss the injury that we caused them needlessly for the sake of somebody else's vengeance. And that's Jimmy Kimmel in a nutshell right now. Not a great person, not even a very funny person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was ganged up on by the very strategies that Facebook ganged up on anybody who had, differing opinions. Jack Dorsey, taking the president of the United States off of social media and censoring them. This is like not a new today strategy. This has been going on for a while, and it's a ramp up to a civil war that is never going to come down to big, organized groups of warring people, but it's going to be millions of individuals that all they're going to do is take them, right? Take as much blood from them as they possibly can and encourage more people to take the same blood, even not knowing what it's about. How many people are defending, the assassin or Jimmy Kimmel, and they are mindlessly, they don't even know what they're defending.
Oh yeah. We're so polarized that if you have a side, you have a side, and you'll defend that side regardless of what makes sense. I feel like if you are on a certain side, you're going to hear about what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, and you're going to be outraged, and you're going to defend him. And if you're on the opposite side, you're going to hear what happened, and you're going to be happy about it, and you're going to be like, good, he deserved it. Both are a bit hypocritical at times. It started, I think, with one side doing this, and now both sides are doing it, which is why now it's just bigger. It's not like it's a a new idea or a new thing. I heard somebody say recently, they were talking about someone calling out the hypocrisy. Well, it's just cancel culture. And you guys said you didn't like cancel culture. Some people say, well, then you're getting a taste of your own medicine. Some people say it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. Because this person I saw said, back when this started, when the whole cancel culture thing started, people were getting canceled when others dug up their past. You would purposely dig up old videos, old quotes, old pictures, old instances, whatever from their past, bring it to light in order to get them in trouble now. Mm-hmm. Whereas today, you're being in trouble in real time. We're mad about this instance, what you just did, not something years ago. Do you think there's a difference there?
There really isn't. I mean, and part of the debate, yes, that carries some weight. But my sort of like my opposition to it is that it's not natural. It's not a natural consequence. So like if I had a rally, right? And the people who are naturally on board were like 10 and I hired 90 people to show up, right? Mm-hmm. Those people wouldn't have shown up if I didn't give them money to show up. Their outrage came from my willingness to pay them. So it's not an authentic rally if only a small percentage of them even know why they're mad about something, right? Mm-hmm. And so like Jimmy Kimmel, if I stop watching Jimmy Kimmel, that is natural. Okay, so again, that's why I say the war has begun probably a decade ago with new ways of injuring individuals, and then through the mob mentality, trying to take as much power or as much injury from the power that you wield. That's been happening, Bud Light, Cracker Barrel, Sydney Sweeney. If you can get enough people outraged enough and encouraged by people that are in the positions, because here's the most insidious part of it, is the people who want to commit the crime of injuring another person, they don't want it to be on them, right? Mm-hmm. So the Iran doesn't want to be targeted with bombing Israel, so they find some person, right, that has nothing, get them to buy into whatever propaganda that they give them, create a person that's not them to carry the bomb, and then both sides are like, Iran's like, that's not me, that was that dude, and Israel's like, well, you told him to and you paid him to do it. It wasn't a bombing that he would have done without you bringing him and creating a proxy in it. So all of this outrage, like when you go through it, like the people who would really want to cancel Bud Light, how many of them were there that would have just stopped buying the brand? And then the brand was like, hey, our sales went down. And so we asked somebody who canceled the purchase there, why are you not buying it? Because you had that dude / girl on the TV, and they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Versus how it went down, we swelled a mob and had the mob gang tackle the thing we didn't like, right? And mm-hmm. how much it was authentic, how much it was interest, like how many of like it was Bud Light, so maybe Coors, right? They're like, our competition over here, let's fuel some of this outrage so that they get gang tackled. I got interest in doing that. And politicians, hey, they're on the other side of the deal. Let's really have how much of it is orchestrated through the people who wield the power that don't want to directly do it themselves, but capitalize on new outrage to have somebody gang tackle. That's what I'm saying. Like, how you can't even know the enemies because it's all terrorist tactics.
Yeah. It's like we have been divided in two sides that just keep, hey, do this.
Exactly.
Hey, do this.
Yeah, right.
When really it's like, I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel simply because I don't stay up that late.
That's a natural consequence for him not being funny and taking too much of his politics and putting it into his entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And you're allowed to do that. That is the expression that you have. Now, if it's orchestrated, where you joined a group that you wouldn't have joined otherwise, that is inauthentic.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about social media being a cancer. Do you think this whole trend of calling to get people fired based on what they post on social media would be a thing if people didn't start seeing other people do that?
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Like, the mob mentality is the most dangerous. The reason why we are in a civil war right now is the banding together to hurt other people without humanizing them and saying, what peril did we just put in them just to get a little bit of vengeance out of someone? Mm-hmm. I've been in the middle of it. When you have a public official tell you that if you do a thing or don't do a thing, that your life is going to get, really complicated. Like those threats and those are real things. Like this happened many times over my career. And what do you think I did?
Didn't do it.
I backed the F off, right? Because I was not in control. I didn't have my own guerrillas out there that could have helped me fight that. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to pivot away from the thing that has lots of risk and danger. So I almost gave it a benefit. I made it, I made it work for them. So they probably kept doing it.
Yeah.
Who's going to stand up to people who can end your career, end your life, end your whatever?
Yeah.
You get afraid of it and you just go in a different direction. And there were other opportunities that weren't part of politics and weren't part of governments and city officials and mob bosses and whatever. So I went there instead. But those things, don't you think that the next guy they called into their office, they said the same shit to, and it was effective so that they kept doing it? Absolutely. And we've just been tolerating that kind of behavior from it's not just organized crime. The people who threatened me and veiled threatened me were legitimate people who were not doing criminal things. They just knew that the position that they held, they could pull that threat off and never be in trouble for it. There's nothing that I could have done.
And do you think this is just so badly bled into the general public where it could be a group of people that we have no connection to each other in a business sense, in a transactional sense? Like somebody could reach out to me and be like, hey, here's this dude in the headlines I know you like. Oh, look at this dumb thing, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe you like him. And I want to be like, you didn't have to message me today. Like, I have no beef with you. I have no whatever with you. And now it's like, it's not even out of control. We've now been so pitted against each other that it's like, why do we care? Like you said, if you don't like somebody, don't use their product, don't watch their show. But it's when we go that extra step further of now I'm going to come after you because I know you do like them, or because you hate them and I like them, or whatever. And it's like, where does that end? Where does that end? Why is it that years and years and years ago, before social media, we all just had an understanding that we probably disagree on things. We all knew that some people voted for one guy and some people voted for the other. And that's why they used to say it's not polite to talk politics. And I'm not saying I agree with that. But for some reason, we were a lot better at getting along, knowing we have differences. And now we know we have differences and we use it to fight each other.
Well, and that's why I say it's a civil war, because the people that used to be affected by this same stuff happening were very few. Now, when an individual who just went to work that day and were innocent gets a sniff of what really happens, you can't argue with me that this is a brand new thing that's happening today. The problem was that when it was happening to other people, everybody was like, that'll never happen to me, and they didn't care. But when it's aimed at you, you don't like that and you think it's an injustice. I'm more like of a principle person, right?
Yeah.
So if I've been telling you all along that this wrong thing that I haven't been a victim of is still wrong on its face, and I'm willing to fight against it even when it hasn't affected me for the other guy, right? Mm-hmm. That is authentic. But if all of a sudden you get mad about something only because the selfish reasons, because now you're affected by it, that's where I'm like, come on, this has been here for why all of a sudden you're upset? So when a shooting happens or violence happens, why is the public so interested on what team they were on, who they voted for,
they
and
feel
who they
vindicated? They feel like they were right.
Okay,
if it was
the
other side.
That's fine, right?
Yeah.
But why? Are you have interest in knowing that we want to profile certain people that leads up to violence so we can quell the violence, or does that information just give you confirmation on your side that the other side's bad and your side is good? So look, it's on their side.
Oh yeah. You cannot convince me that there is not a large group of our population that is dying to get the Epstein files just because they want certain people to be on documents.
Okay, so let's pause right there. And let's use the Kimmel example. You ever watch the newscasts where there's something reported and every single newscaster used the same verbiage in the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were an investigator and all you did was collect information and you had to put a hypothesis, how would you think that actually happens? That all of those reporters came up with the same language in the exact same way, and that's how they presented the story?
I'd say clearly they're pushing this narrative out,
Okay.
and they are told to
Single
do this.
word, orchestration. Those
Yes.
words came from somewhere, and they were just a megaphone that repeated the words that were given to them. Okay.
Yes.
So if there is orchestration above Jimmy Kimmel, so what did the George Soros is the first name that comes to mind. Somebody who has the wealth. They fund all of these activists. They're the ones who are paying the outrage mobs. They're the ones that have control of media distribution, right?
Mhm.
And they wanted it to be a MAGA conservative that took out Charlie Kirk. First and foremost, so they can vilify MAGA, but also there's this theme of transgender wacky liberals that are using violence. So they didn't want this one, and they really wanted this one. So if the orchestrators said, all right, so the investigation has happened, and it looks like it's a liberal who went off the deep end in a certain direction, and that's not really good. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to gaslight the public, and we're going to keep the narrative, even in spite of everything. When you get to that moment, you are now orchestrating that all of your people that you have control of are lying, and they're going to continue to lie. So let's just say the orchestrator above Jimmy Kimmel was told, listen, you're political. We know what you want here. See if you can find a clever way of keeping MAGA as part of the narrative so that the low IQ people in our society will keep hearing the association between assassin and MAGA, and they'll just keep that connection going as long as we possibly can.
Mhm.
Right. So now if your FCC, right, and your administrators said, this is really what's going down. Jimmy Kimmel didn't have that original idea. There's an avenue of corruption where it was gotten to Jimmy Kimmel to keep the MAGA narrative alive, and FCC controls what comes out of there. Should the government, now as it has an obligation, to shut down an orchestration of propaganda and lies, if that's the case?
My first question when I read the headline, Jimmy Kimmel pulled indefinitely for something he said on air, and I watched it, my gut reaction was, does he not turn in his monologue before he goes on air?
It?
Yes. Like, does he not approve everything he's going to say?
The way I understand it is that late night have a room of writers, right? The writers write the jokes, and they line it up with his personality, and then he gets final sign off on whatever it is that they wrote. So if I wanted to control what came out of his mouth, those writers would the people I'd go after. So I wouldn't blame Kimmel so much as the people who put the words in his mouth.
It's possible he ad-libbed or he went off script or he threw that in there. Yeah. It is possible. But I was wondering that, like, was this something he just thought of on the spot and said it? Or was this something that was in writing and approved? And if it was, that's odd.
Yeah. But the couple lines that I took out of some of the media yesterday were that they are going after the funders, the orchestrators, the people who craft those narratives and then push it down on all of their mouthpieces. And if they can dry up the money, comedy and news, like let's just say you have a Reuters feed that basically populates all of the news deal. Okay, so the orchestrators then have to corrupt the Reuters feed or the news agencies that push those stories out to them so they can read them. Well, what if I said every news station can't use national feeds for things? You have to write your own stuff. Then you separate it and you make it so that you can corrupt a couple of those news agencies, but you won't have 100 newscasters reading the exact same propaganda that came out of wherever their feeds come out. It would be harder for me to corrupt it because you decentralize it.
Yeah. And I've seen when I record for my other radio show, there's a certain site that I use to get some information, and it could be celebrity news, music news, and there's a lot of like major headline world news in there. And it is so obviously biased the way it is written. And I'm just like, I'm not even talking about that. Like, but how many people we'll just read it. We'll just read it as it's written.
Well, but human nature, we want to centralize power and control because it's way more convenient and it can be more effective. Libertarianism says we need to, if the founders said that absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And which means that is not like a suggestion or like a little wink. That is, if you get too much power concentrated in one area, it physically, mathematically, it will always corrupt in nature. So if you had, gas stations, right, and you had 20 different gas stations, the natural market forces set their pricing and whatever, and you had two guys get together and say, "I'm sick of fighting with you. Let's merge," right? And all the gas stations merge, and then you look to say, okay, why is the gas prices so high right now? Well, you took competition out of it, and the consolidation meant that everything was uniform. It was easier to do. Consumers liked it because of all the benefits. But the bad side is now you don't have any factors that keep that system honest. So you need to break it up and break it into 10 different pieces and let them fight each other so that the consumer is protected by that same kind of centralization and consolidation. And that's the same thing that happens in news. If you consolidate news, if you consolidate government, if you consolidate finances, everything has not just the chance, but it is 100% going to happen that it's going to corrupt unless there's a force that breaks that up.
Yeah. Somebody said maybe ABC.
I'll go back to.
Oh yeah, there we go.
So did the MLO Bros get canceled by Ursuline? So this is another deal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big. We got advice to not talk about certain topics on this show because of the reach that's limited when you talk about those things, right?
Oh, you're talking about as in people all over the internet aren't going to know Ursuline?
Oh no,
Or are you
separate
about,
thing. Oh. We can't say certain words without limiting our reach. We can't talk about certain topics. Do you not?
From an algorithm standpoint.
From an algorithm standpoint. Yeah. Human beings created the algorithm to take certain speech and to make sure that it doesn't get any magnification whatsoever. It's minimized, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we're like, okay, well, we won't say those words so we could get maximum reach. So the very mathematical censorship that is actually happening. I said a couple of months ago, F it, I don't care. I'm going to talk about what I talk. I am not going to be put in the threat of not having anybody hear me because I want to talk about certain things. It's important, the stuff that we talk about here.
Yeah.
And just because someone doesn't like it or decides that it's not acceptable on social media is not going to make me talk about different things. We're going to talk about kicking puppies when we have a civil war sitting in front of us.
Yeah.
F you, Facebook.
Because that's kind of why we sort of cooled it on talking about health and wellness, because it doesn't go anywhere in the algorithm of the internet. Limited.
And that is censorship by technological factors that are bigger than us. So to answer your question, the MLO Bros got a bunch of parents or people mass reported their page, right? So if you can get a group of mob together, and you can all decide that we're going to injure the MLO Bros, what they do is they, in concert, go and report. The algorithms suck up something that got reported and say, this must be bad. And they do put it under review. And then when it's reviewed by a human or another algorithm that does reviews, determine whether or not this was good content for the people. So the power that is concentrated in the mob says that if I don't like what you're saying, right, I have some mechanisms to make sure nobody hears you So yes, MLO Bros, Jimmy Kimmel were gang tackled by people who didn't like what they were saying. Regardless of what they were saying, they didn't like it, and they had enough power to be able to kick them off air. Now, the MLO Bros are not going anywhere, right? They're just not the type to let this die down and whatever. So they might have 3 pages and they all get hit, but they will find a way to get their message out. I can guarantee you.
Yeah. I saw on Facebook, they're launching one today, aren't they?
And that one will get taken down, and the one after that will get taken down because the mob that hit him the first time isn't going to be like, oh, they popped up another thing. No, they're going to hit it in the same way because now they have the power and control. Thank you. To stifle their speech. And you can disagree on that level. Like, that's where debate is really important. And if you disagree with how someone's coming across, if they're lying, you yourself need to debate and push against it. And more speech is better, not less. And so that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to go probably, if they were volume 8 before, they're going to be volume 20 now. And that is the natural consequence of trying to shut someone up as they start screaming.
do you feel about those that are willing to shut someone up, but not come out themselves and say what they think? You know, like, there's been many times, whether it was our show, MLO Bros, anybody, even Charlie Kirk was great at this. Like, you don't agree with me? Okay, here's a mic. Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a mic. Here's your chance. And then they go, oh, no, I'm not doing it. Yep. I don't want to get someone mad at me. I'm like, but you'll do it behind the scenes.
There is, and that is the cowardice that we allow to exist in society. Like, if I knew if I said something you didn't like, that we were just going to punch each other in the face, then if you didn't want to get punched in the face, then you wouldn't say the thing. That would be a threat of your safety for making sure that you want to say what. So the MLO Bros, right? It is not easy what they're putting themselves through. They have the courage to be able to say things they know people aren't going to like to hear, right? And they're willing to fight the consequences and have the other battles that come from that. So you want to bring, you want to bring your hate at them. Don't embrace it. And that's hard when you are fighting against someone who's more courageous than you, that are not afraid to take it to the next level and have the furthest extent of the debate that there are. So if I'm an intellectual, there's certain parts of debates that I'm just not courageous enough to have, right? There's certain people that I would love to have a debate because I know they're going to have it in the philosophical and where my intelligence, that's my wheelhouse. But if I had some idiot who were just going to spout propaganda, I wouldn't even have anything to say. I would be dismissive of her. I'd say, no, I'm not even going to have the debate with you because that's not my expertise.
I even feel like when I get things like my Maha hat, or some people are making Charlie Kirk t-shirts now, and all these things that I would support, and I'd be like, you know what? I don't even want to wear that stuff in public anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm ashamed of it. If somebody truly said, hey, I'd love to know your feelings on that thing, by all means, let's have a conversation. But I know that's not the norm. The norm is to immediately escalate the situation, become unreasonable. You don't want to interact with me based off of any type of information I could give you. You just want to spew crap and not listen to any rebuttal. So why?
Yeah,
it's an enormous waste of time.
We took all and evolution. If you've learned anything about Darwinism, is that when you allow weak-minded, weak-willed, really just weak overall people to be encouraged to do things. So for instance, you get pulled over, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to talk to this cop and tell him I'm a sovereign citizen and I'm not even giving you my driver's license. Like, you're big old badass. And then they pull you out of the car, slam you on the ground, put handcuffs on you, and all of a sudden you're very sorry and you won't talk or speak up anymore. But because the consequence visited you, they didn't really see coming. You thought the whole Karen attitude was going to work, and the cop was like, I'm so sorry. You know what, Judge? I'm so sorry, right?
I saw something on Facebook recently that said people with keyboard muscles need their real life teeth punched out.
It's exactly right. And that's the real natural consequences that allow people to govern their behaviors and what's acceptable. We just gave really low IQ people who were, spaghetti noodle spine people, right?
Yeah.
Lots of encouragement that they have something important to say and the courage to stand up to you who will punch them in the teeth.
Yeah. So then are you against if somebody wants to spout off online and someone else is like, I can't come punch you in the teeth, but I can sure call your employer and get you fired. Are you for that?
That's the guerrilla tactic, where you use power that you're not willing to do and allow them to work on your behalf instead of you. Fight your own battles means, right, that if we have words and I'm like, yeah, let's freaking fight, and then tag somebody in there to have the fight for you, you're never going to feel the pain that got in that moment. It's that other dude that you tagged in is the one that gets to fight your battle for you.
And almost, does this feel a little, I'm speaking in stereotypes. Does it feel like we have left how men would fight their battles and moved into how women would fight their battles?
100%. 100%.
Like, hey, I'm not going to physically take you down. I'm going to be far more.
Well, you think women mouth off a little bit more because there was in culture it was like men don't hit women, and women like, oh, they're not going to hit me, so I can get away with a lot more, knowing that there's less consequences when because I'm a woman. And then the feminists ruined that for y'all, and they said women are men, so men are like, oh, what would I do if a guy was in there saying, oh, I'd punch him in the face, and then women get punched in the face, and all of a sudden you become a pre-feminist woman, like, I'm so dainty and that hurts so much. Why did you do that? Just like the cop example.
Yeah. Julie says, Todd Blanche announced that they will be cracking down on organized protesters and federally charging them. Good. First Amendment rights are under attack. You either support it or not. There is no middle road.
And my uniform principle is this: your rights are an individual right.
Wait a minute. I said good, but let me clarify. Organized protesters, real protesters, or organized like paid to protest?
Organized means that some governing body created that protest with influence and money and bodies that are inauthentic.
Like there's a difference between a group of people that feel strongly about a cause and decide to protest. And then there are people that are like, you want to make some money?
Yeah.
Take this sign and go cause problems.
Yeah. So in the organized side, the Soros-funded pseudo protests are the ones that they're going to go after. But again, libertarianism kicks in. So when you get the government to be able to hit the ones that we don't want in there, right? Because they're inauthentic and they're just organized by partisans. Do you trust the government to like take your foot off that gas pedal and say, hey, there's an opposition deal. We can use the weight of the government to squash them because it's better for us, right? So I don't want them anywhere near this. I don't want Soros's to be able to fund protesters and make them out to be more. I don't want mob rule and have people ganging up on innocent people and making it more than what an authentic, whatever outrage would be. And I don't want the government to have the controls to be able to squelch anything because they can't handle that kind of responsibility. So there's no answer to it. And that's why I say we can't have the thing that we actually want in this because it's mathematically now out of. You go back 10 years before any of this happens and you have smart people that talk about this and say, hey, there's a slippery slope. If you keep doing this, it's going to get really bad. And they're like, that'll never happen. So we did that. Like we earned where we're at right now, which we don't have any options.
Yeah. Carter says maybe ABC or Disney just wanted to part ways and had nothing to do with the White House.
I find that very difficult to believe. Do I think that some of these, because it's become so partisan and they've alienated a lot of their audiences and they're losing money to be able to pay these people to go on TV, I have a feeling that their model would have run out of money anyway. And so if it were me, I would have waited for Kimmel to fizzle on his own without the leveraging of the FCC. Now, I would have used the FCC to pursue legitimate liars and untruths being told on purpose. But I would have to make my case that said the money came from this person, then they told this writer to put it in, and the writer told him to put it in, prosecute the people who used a media outlet for propaganda. If it was free speech where he came up with an idea and he said something mean and nobody wanted to hear it, but it didn't get orchestrated like the Soros outrage mobs, then that's just freedom of speech and should be permitted.
How do you feel about freedom of speech in an environment that you are using a company's platform and operating under their name and representing them?
Yeah, you are an extension of the company that you work for. So if the company decided that you weren't representing them well and they get rid of you, I guess it's not freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel could wake up right now, go on X and say exactly what he would say on the late night show right now. His freedom of speech was not changed. If you put it that we just talked about something that will get far less viewers than Jimmy Kimmel. We're expressing ourselves, right? We're not given a late show to be able to do this. So he and I are on the same level at this point.
Yeah. There was somebody that was fired from our area. You may know who I'm talking about a year ago now, maybe. She went online and said something, ticked off a lot of people, and she lost her job.
Yep.
And people cried, what happened to freedom of speech? And I was like, did this using the company's logo as her social media picture, talked about where she worked, and said something controversial.
Yeah. Again, if it was orchestrated by somebody out there that the company didn't come in that day, see what she said and said, I don't want that person working here, that would be authentic consequences. But if someone from the outside said, hey, we're an advertiser and the company didn't dislike it, but hey, we're not going to advertise with you anymore, you need to get rid of her, that would be an inauthentic, leverage from the outside decision where the company wanted the advertising dollar more than that person represented in the seat. Now we've gotten to the shaky ground part where someone levered the position of power to get something they wanted to happen.
What if, because I heard this was possibly a thing, the person who said this had already been warned. Stop posting things like that. It's causing problems. Stop doing it. Didn't lose the job, was just warned. And then they did it again. Yeah. And now they lost the job.
That sounds like a very internal deal. It has all the hallmarks of somebody just, thinking that their public expression is more important than the seat that they hold. And they took a risk. They took a gamble. And some get away with it. Some don't. All right. Are you good with Brian Kilmeade saying homeless people should be euthanized if they don't conform? Do you think if a Dem said that, they would be gone? I listened to that back and forth exchange, and those comments were extremely insensitive, and it was overgeneralizing that all mental health, homeless people need to be euthanized. That's not a great thing to say. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the same kind of public outrage happened to him, and then his employer has to decide whether or not I don't think a lot of the people who are watching that newscast, right, are going to become, become non-viewers now because of what he said. So I think the pressures are way less.
Yeah. I still think no matter who says what, unfortunately, we are still on our own teams, and you're going to justify or you're going to crucify based on where you fall. And it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter if it was right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it was in response to something or not. Anybody who agrees with a particular side right now will say that's wrong. And anybody who disagrees will say that's wrong. And I don't think we even consider what makes sense anymore.
Yeah. And I really, on both of these, Kimmel or Brian from Fox News, I don't really care either way. Like, they're not on my team. They're not on my team. And I don't wish ill on anyone. So I don't hope one thing happens and not. I'm an observer who's going to watch it either happen or not. I'm going to be able to tell you how it was engineered to either happen or not happen. Again, when Kelin and I are on purpose not joining a group is because the groups are completely limiting. Half the shit that I say, one team is going to hate me no matter what it is that I say. So you can't win. So I either have to indoctrinate myself so that my ideas and what comes out of my mouth is in line with what my group approves of, and F that. I'm not, this isn't a board.
Oh, and there is no, like you said, you can't win. It doesn't matter what you say. You go out and be like, what a nice sunny day. I'm like, do you not see those clouds? You think this is a sunny day? What, do you got something against cloudy days? Oh, I guess you're too good for cloud. And it's like, holy crap. All I said was, it's literally that. No matter what you say. And we've talked to Julie and said, Julie, why don't you come on here and sort of be the devil's advocate with some different topics? And she's like, no, I don't want to get tore apart on the internet, because she will be.
Yeah.
Everybody will be. It doesn't matter what the show is, what you say, what the subject matter is. Unfortunately, that's what we do to people.
Yeah. So I can be supportive of both, where you do whatever you want, right? And you express yourself, however, let the people who like whatever you're saying gravitate towards you. Let the people who hate it not gravitate towards you. So you get viewers that like watching you and not get viewers. It's the inauthentic orchestration where I don't want Carters or Julies or anything other watching this. They don't like it. So they want to organize an army to come after you for it, depending on if it's your side or not. And if it's a real principle, you'll be able to decide whether or not you think what Jimmy Kimmel, right, said, and whether or not his life needs to be uprooted and changed because of what he said. individual, just as an individual.
Yeah.
Anybody that uses assassination joke on a supposed comedy show is a disgrace and shows how brain dead he is. And I wish there was standards. I really wish that we all agreed that there were some things that we say, but the things that we say have real consequence. But you can watch any show and watch people say things that are kind of like in really bad taste. I mean, do you want to go to a comedy show and have the comedian that's on stage be regulated as the things that are not allowed to be said? Remember when the Kramer guy got mad and he hurled some racist insults out into the crowd?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something that should be protected? Because if my rules were in play, he says the thing and the people who didn't like the fact that he said the thing don't show up at his shows. And the thing, people who don't care about it still come to his shows, and the natural consequence is either he's still in business or not, versus we deciding that those words can't be said. And there's some off limit topics that we don't say. So what should be allowed or what should be disallowed? What should you not be able to talk about?
I don't think there's anything you shouldn't be allowed.
Really, call to action
about.
is the only thing I disagree with. When you are trying to make somebody else or nudge somebody else into doing your bidding for you, whether or not that's hurting another individual, whether or not that's canceling another issue, you should talk about you and your opinion and then see who agrees or disagrees with you. That should be public discourse. So if I get up on stage and I say that I don't like something, right, it's going to have the natural consequences of if I went too far, I'm going to know about it based on my crowd size.
How do you feel? I keep thinking about this example years ago. Remember when Kathy Griffith got canceled?
Yeah.
Because she showed like a fake beheading of Donald Trump and was holding this gruesome fake severed head. And everyone's like, too far. You took it too far. And she got canceled. How did you feel about that?
That was a big risk. You knew what you were getting in for when you did that on stage. So if you want to be insensitive and go shock value Howard Stern style, there's going to be repercussions and you got to own that before you do the thing.
Yeah. And you sort of need to know too where you stand. Like when she did that, I wasn't a Donald Trump fan. And even I went, come on, that's too far. Right. That's unnecessary. I also didn't care enough for Kathy Griffith to push back on any hate she got. You know, like I said, I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel because I don't stay up that late. I don't watch any of the late night shows. I didn't see a lot of Kathy Griffith's content because I didn't find her that funny to begin with.
Well, I used to orient my entire day about watching Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, and SNL, the funny things that happen in the evening when they can take some liberties with language and have more adult content stuff. I loved it. I mean, it was funny. I really enjoyed it. And then there was a shift where it no longer was about being funny. When SNL started lampooning everyone, that was hilarious because that was what comedy was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then when SNL started saying, well, we're kind of a liberal thing here now, so we're going to take really big shots at one side and, ask Joe Biden what his favorite ice cream cone is. That's when I bought out because it was just a weapon against one side instead of a weapon against all sides. And that's where they lost me. And I won't, the Kathy Griffins of the world can't help but inject their politics into it instead of just trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And that's where I was out.
Do you think they do it thinking I'm gonna get bigger off of this? Like if I'm sort of just a B-lister, maybe I become an A-lister with more publicity.
I often think about that because and I think the advisors and the people they consult with on what they're going after, I think it's more that they have a platform and they haven't been able to say everything they wanted to say, but they get to a certain point that now people have to listen to them. And so they psychologically rape people. And then now that you're paying attention to them, they just vomit everything they've wanted to say once they get to a certain level versus taking a group and saying, hey, you know what? We sell cheeseburgers and we're really missing this group over here. And I want to appeal to them so they buy my cheeseburgers, and say this will add 20% of my viewership if I say something about, cat ladies who love to knit or something like that.
Yeah.
And the consultant would say, as long as it doesn't alienate your core group, that's good that you appeal to a new group to bring them into your demographic. But this is the other side of it. That's why I don't believe that that's what the case here is, because if you were like, you got an 80-20 issue, right? And 80% of the people are on this side and 20% are on this side. And somebody said, hey, I'm going to go after this 20% group. And I said, well, that's a very unpopular deal. You might lose 40% of your 80% in pursuit of the 10% of the 20%. I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. It's not a good enough risk if your goal was to become bigger and grow your brand. I think it's that just very egotistical people that take their platform and they want to punch you in the face with what they have to say because they're absolutely smarter than you. That's my true feelings.
Jennifer, y'all heard of groypers?
Mm-hmm.
Though, who are the orchestrators? Are they in the room with you? Is it named Soros? He gives 20% compared to all the Heritage Foundation folks, but no one wants to talk about possibly because they're the orchestrators. So I've just recently heard groypers.
Mm-hmm.
What is this exactly?
So Nick Fuentes, he is I don't want to use any of the charged language. So I don't want to use things like far right or fringe right because people lost their meaning, right?
Yeah.
But this guy has some ideals that are kind of out there, right? I don't even know who to compare him to because he's its own thing. So he's more adopting to more of the very unpopular angles of conservatism. So if you took somebody who was extremely religious and they went to the nth degree where they were text interpretists, and they took the letter of the law and they thought that was it, and it ends up being extreme. So if you consume pork, right, and this isn't Nick Fuentes, but I'm just giving a example, and they believed that the pork was the thing that made you go to hell, and so you rampaged against everybody eating pork. Reasonable people would say, well, maybe taking that too far. I see why you're there, but you went a little bit in more of a exuberance towards something. Well, that's what Nick Fuentes is. And he has extreme views, not very popular with traditional conservatism at all, has a great following, a huge following of people who are on that fringe element. And it's probably counter like the trans group where they're equally as militant and they have huge group of followings kind of thing.
So there's like a far right and a far left, and he would be on the far right.
Very fringe far right. Yes. Yeah.
So groypers is like
his group, the people who feel, I don't know the origin of the word.
It's a name kind of like MAGA.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Groypers is a group of people.
I don't see them as very influential. I've put them in the box.
I've never even fringe heard, element. So maybe not.
So they don't have much popularity. They don't have popular appeal. And if you ignored them, they would probably never be heard from again.
Yeah.
They're taking a moment to be, making some headlines, getting their membership up because of the fringe people who want to join this group.
There's another one. His last name begins with an M, I think. Mole something. And he even made a post. He's like, well, you killed the nice guy. Now you have me. And he seems to be another sort of very far right.
Yeah, and that is the pendulum
swing. I don't know who this dude is.
That is the pendulum swing that is bound to happen. People are going to capitalize on it, use it to their own end, and use the energy that's created in the the void of Charlie Kirk. And there's going to be some good that happens, and also some terrible bad things that happen. But as far as the Soros versus the groypers, however you pronounce it. So I look at it as the orchestrators, the people who are accumulating controls. Like, what are they doing? Okay. So the liberals have a head start on buying radio stations, newspapers, television, being able to control narrative and have enough funding to be able to put out propaganda to a group. And then you take the Heritage Foundation that does exactly the same thing, smaller footprint, maybe more cash supply, but they don't control enough radio stations. If you take all of the public outlets that have influence of George Soros, the mobs and the NGO groups that are funded by that, and you put it in its aggregate, you compare the two, Heritage Foundation has way less exposure than the Soros group. So if I wanted to equalize it, and if we're going to play that game and have these off books black operations to be able to, propagate propaganda. I don't think I've ever used those two words.
Propagate propaganda.
Propagate propaganda.
It's both a verb and a noun.
Right. If I were to do that, I would say, which is the biggest influence on culture? I would say Soros has a much bigger footprint. And if you can take, here's what you do. If I wanted to neuter Soros, is that if he's going to spend money, I want it all on books. I don't want him to be able to filter it through and not be able to tell how much money that he is truly spending, and getting it back to politicians. We're paying them off directly, getting it off to outrage mobs, being able to control narratives on that. Number one. Number two, anything that is an independent media source, no Soros money for them. If you have an FCC license where we're both broadcasters, FCC hits guidelines of the things we're allowed and not allowed to do. Do you know why they do that? Because of exploitation, right? So somebody like payola rules.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody came through my door and said, I really want you to talk about XYZ, and here's a trade of services, or here's direct money, the FCC will find the shit out of me because I let outside influence dictate what it is that I was going to say.
Yeah.
Right? And so every radio host knows what the FCC can do to flex their muscle. So why doesn't that not count when you have money influence that dictates what people are going to say? They should get the same damn fines, only 1,000 times bigger, to keep that stuff in control. So we have the mechanisms to be able to control this. We just don't extend them to people because they have too much concentrations of power in media.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very clear that you can't just do anything you want to do if someone else is influencing you. Sorry, I'm under the guidelines of where I work.
Can't do it.
But they can do it.
Yeah, they can say, hey, I want them to use this thing on all the newscasts, pay a bunch of money to all those people in advertising dollars directly or in advertising dollars. And then they watch their words come out of every newscaster that they're under control of. That should be very legal.
Is that a little bit similar to universities?
100%. The dominoes that started following when Elon Musk started exposing the NGOs that were laundering government spending to these groups that did this thing. You don't think that money was put into controlling narratives and indoctrinating kids in education and doing things in pharmaceuticals and medical? Because they could. There's no counterweight to them accumulating and amassing these powers. And so when you starve the money out of it, just watch who can no longer function anymore, right?
Yeah.
And the narratives were like, do you think George Soros was pissed off that some of that government funding wasn't getting through those pathways that he created through all of those institutions? He's flipping out, right? He's not happy about this now because he wasn't spending his own money on this. He was spending some. He was priming the pump with his own money, but he was getting the government to fund liberal causes and liberal activism through the machine of government. So anyway, I wanted. No, I do not. Again, I don't think that was a serious charge here. I think that
Julie has an important question.
Okay, so did
Youngstown Studio cancel MLO Bros?
I did not. I did not.
In fact, according to their own Facebook page and posts, they'll will be here tomorrow.
Yeah, they will be here.
Yeah.
Does that make you happy or sad, Julie? I want to know. Serious question.
No, Youngstown Studio is not the reason why they've not been here all week.
Yeah. All right, go ahead and read Jerry's.
With politics now being mixed with religion and the age now of lack of personal conversations due to the internet and ability not to interact socially, along with AI and not knowing if it's true or not, as well as the facts that we now can eliminate morals and hide behind a telephone or keyboard, is a big downfall to society and the morality of people. You cannot no longer have conversations face to face out of fear due to societal breakdown.
100%. And who's been saying that for the last 5 years? Joe Danyi.
Joe
Danyi. So, and I told you so and I told, even with like the AI stuff, I said, hey, here's what's going to happen with AI. If you do something now about it and set some rules and put in people, important to know the seriousness of this. Elon Musk said it, like everybody who's developing it said the exact same thing. And we just wander into these traps. And then we're so surprised when what everybody said would happens, right?
Yeah.
And then we run around just with these vengeance in our hearts to try to mop it up. It's too freaking late.
I saw somebody online the other day talking about this idea of, you know, everybody thinks they're right.
I'm right, though. I'm really right.
You typically are right.
I am really right.
But when we talk about the polarized, the two side issues, everybody thinks they're right. I've got the right idea. I'm in the right mindset. I know what I'm talking about. The other side doesn't. And he's like, so what do you do when both sides truly believe they're right? And maybe to some extent they have points. He's like, that's when we have to now agree that the answer as to who is truly right, who is really the more correct side, must be measured. Let's measure it. Here's what you said we should do. How did that work out? Here's what you said we should do. How did that work out? If you follow the ideas and the teachings and the narratives of a certain side, and life is good,
but you
life
can't.
Is not.
Okay, so but you can't have that again. These are the things that
it's impossible.
We already broke, but you could have it if you just listen to me. Remember, Right Joe here is going to tell you. So let's bring it down to your own neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so you have a dispute with a neighbor about somebody, and you vehemently disagree, and you think you're in the right, and your neighbor thinks they're in the right. So you have an impasse. Now you're going to have hostility, and because you couldn't come to some kind of concession on who was more right or whatever, what's required? All right. You have to have an unbiased moderator to be able to hear all of the evidence, measure what each one's saying, and arrive with a judgment that is just. And if you are delivered that justice, and you can look at it and say, yeah, I was just mad and I didn't see through it, and that makes sense to me and whatever. But the minute that you put it in the hands of the moderator, and the moderator is not just, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get served a consequence, or at least an injustice that you don't agree with. Now where are you at? So now it's worse, because not only was your neighbor against you and you could handle that on your own, but now a system is against you, right? And you have no trust for the system. So now we don't have an agreement with our neighbor. We don't have trust in where the government is, because we did not deliver measurable justice to you. So what do you have now? Now you have isolation, where you can't trust your neighbor. You can't trust the government. All you can trust is you. Everybody becomes the enemy that's outside of your yard. That's where we're at right
And
now.
you'll never leave that mindset, because now you say the system is always against me. And when faced with a situation that the system was just and not against you, you automatically assume they are.
Okay,
and
so now what does the government then have to do to bring you back in that says, trust us again? This time we'll get it right. We'll deliver you what you're asking for. You have to have truth, honesty, right?
Consistency.
You have to have a freaking standard that is uniform across all people. Injustice is delivered by having consistency.
You would have to show me that you face the same consequences and have to live up to the same guidelines. For example, if I am expected to be a good person and live a morally sound life and not do bad, wrong, illegal things, I can't have a get out of jail free fund. I can't have a fund of money that I say, oh, I did this thing, I'll just pay you off with it. But the government can.
Mm-hmm.
So get rid of that, and I'll trust you a little more. If I can be given the boot for saying something or doing something at my job, why can't we give you the boot when you said something or did something during your job? But we can't, so don't trust you again. It's like when the government starts facing the same amount of consequences and have to follow the same guidelines, then maybe there's a chance of having more trust.
So in software, we have this, we have different types of companies. We have open source companies, right? Do you know what the value of open source? I'm sure you've heard the term, but do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
All right. So you can look through the code and find out what a program is doing. All right. So if you think, hey, this program I'm using on my phone is stealing passwords. And then I say, well, it's open source. Look through the code and show me where we're stealing passwords. And then anybody can look at the original code, see that it's been altered, and you're like, oh, okay. I guess you're not stealing passwords. I thought maybe you were. Weird stuff happened. Maybe I accused you, but now I see open sources, whatever. So I used to work at a racetrack. Okay. And
you've done everything.
I know. And wrote a program. And really what would happen was the drivers would finish their heat races. And maybe the top 5 finishers in the heat races would go into the feature, and we would do a pill draw, a random number where there was a bottle and you pulled a pill out of it and it had a number on it. And that's where you started the feature. right?
Okay.
Terribly inefficient. Couldn't get drivers to show up to do a pill drawing. It was always extended the night by like 45 minutes because they just couldn't wrangle the drivers to do their pill draw, and it would delay things. So they were like, let's just do this automated. I will have a random number generator create the pill draws. At the end of the feature, I'll hit the button. It'll tell me what the draw numbers are, right? And that'll be the drawing. And so drivers started, because they didn't pull their own pill, they started saying, Joe's cheating. I saw this driver got a good pill draw 2 races in a row. He's got to be cheating. And I was like, hey, if anybody says that, have them come up to the tower where I was at, and I'll show them exactly how it works. So the being able to show you that I know that there could be impropriety in this, and I can be open and expose everything that we're doing. There's nothing hidden here. You can have your representative look over my shoulder and see that there's zero impropriety happening. So the open source dynamic means that I can peek into anything. So we'll use my example where you have your mediator with the 2 neighbors, right? And then you're like, well, your judgment, I question. How did you arrive at your judgment? And if you were open source, you were like, well, here's what I did. I gathered all the details. I put it through this formulation. This person had a bigger point value than this person, and I gave you the results. Now you know how you were being judged. You know where you were wrong, where you were right. I took a measurement, and you're more wrong than right, and you're more right than you're wrong, and I came up with a judgment. And you're like, oh, okay, I see how that is.
Yeah,
transparency. If you have institutions that are not transparent, you don't know how they're, then you have to say, okay, well, you came down on his side because your sister-in-law is friends with him, and they give this to your kids' little league, and that's why you came down. And then we have accusations where there's no transparency. So you can, maybe that's true. Maybe it is. But if I give you the formulation, nowhere in my formulation that rendered a result was my sister-in-law's name or the judgment of who they gave to was in there. So you can clearly see that bias did not infiltrate into the system.
Do you think when Musk was working that we had more transparency than we do when he's not?
Oh, yeah. And I wish that would
felt like it.
That would, and it made, there's a problem though, because those seals can't be broken now, right? The cure might be more dangerous than the cancer. Okay. So they did a study. Joe Rogan was talking about this the other day about, I believe it was the 80s, Reagan did a polling of some scientists, right? And they took what consequences of saying we have alien spacecraft. Okay, what I want you to do is saying, if we tell the public exactly what we have, list all the pros and cons of that. And they asked a bunch of people in different disciplines what would happen socially, and whether or not it made people in their faith and religion hurt that, maybe the economies, maybe the public in general, maybe civilization would buckle and people wouldn't go to work anymore. And took all these things and say, okay, if the number is more bad than good, then we won't release it. If the number is more good than bad, then we will release it. And it was obviously more bad than good, and so they didn't release it. So now as the public, we're like, okay, well, they could have been transparent, just said the truth. Would you as just a regular person, would you be willing to pay a bigger sacrifice by knowing everything? And if the government is making decisions based on net gain versus net loss, then you can see transparency in some of these departments isn't even possible because nobody's willing to pay those costs.
Yeah. I mean, what if people feel some kind of way about it and they're like, oh my gosh, we're all in danger. We're all going to die.
It's exactly right.
No laws matter. Let's just do whatever. And then you have chaos. And it's
so you would fight for the transparency that would cause the chaos. Then you would be responsible. And what politician or government agencies going to be responsible for that chaos? None of them.
Yeah. That's
what exactly did Kimmel say that was so objectionable? I read into it 2 ways, and it could be some interpretation here. He wasn't making the joke that the headlines say that he was making. He was not. It was a very passive aggressive version of it. And that's the only thing that I take exception to. He was making a joke about how, and it wasn't even a joke. Like it was just political commentary.
Yeah.
He was saying that Republicans are trying to separate it from MAGA, right? Republicans are trying very hard to separate it from MAGA. And then they put a joke line at the end. right?
Mhm.
And he said insensitive things other than that, but that was just
Yeah.
the last thing that he said.
Well, he said, and we could probably pull it up and read it exactly. He said basically he disagreed with the idea of Republicans trying to paint this as though it's not one of their own, i.e. saying the killer had to have been a MAGA /
Well, and that's why I say
Republican
passive
/
aggressive, the
something.
IE part, which you have to dig into that. That's a logical jump on a second dimension to be able to say that it was keeping the connection between the shooter and the MAGA as part of the primary part, even if in the words he was saying the opposite.
He was, I can't think of the literal quote. We could look it up, but he basically, I'm paraphrasing, was, I can't believe they're all trying to pass this off as though it's not one of their own. And it was like, but wait a minute, it's not. And people were saying, some people say he said that before we caught the suspect. I don't know the timeline of it, but everyone's like, why would you even push that narrative? We have the suspect. We know what their deal was. But you have to admit, so it caused
that was
fighting.
Very weak sauce, right? Very weak
sauce. It was a cheap shot. It was no.
I'm talking from using that as the reason for it, right? And I don't know that anybody's claimed that as being the reason, but that is a very weak version.
Well, and then he goes on to say, oh, and everybody, Trump's saying he's supposedly grieving over his friend. Look how distraught he looks. And he pulls a clip of Donald Trump, a reporter saying, I'm so sorry about the death of your friend, Charlie Kirk. How are you? And how are you handling this? He's like, I'm doing well. I'm actually looking over here at the construction of the new White House ballroom and blah, blah, blah. And he changed the subject. And Kimmel's like, oh, you look really grieved. You're real upset.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's like a 4-year-old.
But again,
and people got mad at that.
It's insensitive, but it is not a reason the FCC would gun at you. If somebody asked you on the radio and you had a response like his, there is nothing inflammatory. Might be insensitive, might be off color, but there's nothing that you're going to get a fine levied at you. So if you're going to pressure someone to take them off the air, it feels a lot like what Julie's the word would say, that you're taking someone who disagrees with you, says mean things about you, and they become number one target from you. Mm-hmm. You have a way stronger sauce than that if you're going to come after somebody who's your opposition, if you don't want people to be able to say that.
Yeah.
So early on in it, I'll wait for much, much more. I very rarely take the day after or the couple days after. I don't think we know enough to have an opinion at this point, but that's my gut reaction, and I'm willing to wait a couple days to see what comes of it.
Julie says, correction, I never said I'm afraid of being torn apart. I could not care less. I am afraid of public speaking, and I fear not being able to express myself efficiently.
Yeah, not everybody was built to make their opinions be heard in front of a group of people. It's just, I mean, people are wired differently. One-on-ones, I bet you Julie can sit down with me around a campfire. We can drink some bourbon, and her and I smoke a cigar together, and she'd be able to talk to me about it because she's heard me and I've heard her. We have comfort in knowing that I'm going to be fair and reasonable, and she's going to be fair and reasonable. One-on-one dialogue. Some people are built as that is their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Some people, it is a very terrifying thing to stick a microphone in front of you.
Yeah. Especially if you're saying things that you know somebody's going to disagree.
Yeah.
People do not like confrontation.
Like even here, like not all the time. I don't care all the time, but sometimes I do feel pressured to very carefully choose my words because of that mindset of it's gonna be torn apart. And it's almost like, how can I word this to get as least amount of reaction as possible? But then, it doesn't matter how you word it. They're going to just assume they know what you meant by that. Or
and I don't even minimize even people who can't articulate how they feel. If they do the best they can to get their ideas, I'm not going to judge them. Like, the Democrats are really big on sort of like removing your merits so that they dissuade people from listening to you, like calling you stupid or saying like the big one was he didn't even go to college, right? It's the big one. So taking your merits away so that other people, it diminishes your deal. Like he's stupid. You know how many times I've been called stupid? Like that is the number one go-to.
People call Elon Musk stupid.
Yes, right. And so that would, in most people, that would be enough to stop them from speaking. If let's just say you're not real confident in your beliefs, and you're not confident that you speak well enough to do it publicly, and you're not confident that you have the supporters that will defend you if whatever. Going in public and then getting inundated with hate from people, that could crush your soul.
Yeah.
And why would my opinion, right, is not worth having everything I care about crushed? So that might keep other people from even speaking their mind.
Another difficult thing I think about sometimes is there have been instances where, because we are in this sort of live conversation, we don't prepare what we're going to talk about. We don't practice this. This is literally, we walk in, we hit play, and ideas flow, and you say it as it comes to you. You have to keep the conversation going. There's not often times where it's like, let's present a question and you go, let me stew on that for a bit and really think about it, and I'll get back to you. No, keep it going. So there have been times where I may say something or feel some kind of way. We end the show, I leave, I go, I think about it more and go, you know what? I don't think that, or I wish I would have said this. I feel actually a little differently now than I did. But guess what? It's on the internet. It's on the internet forever. And you have to know that what you just immediately said is now in the ether for everyone to read multiple times out there, when maybe an hour or a day or two later you went, I wish I would have thought longer on that. I think I feel differently now. That's a risk too.
It's the cost of doing what we do. You got to know that dumb shit's going to, like, could you, the Brian thing where he's pissed off about this girl got stabbed on the subway, and he was like, I don't want that to happen anymore. Could you ever see something like, well, we should just kill all the
homeless,
mental state, bad mental state, homeless people, right? Do you think he really meant that, where he's a guy that is, you know, on a crusade to kill mentally unstable homeless people? Or do you think he got caught up in a moment and said something really dumb that he had to apologize for?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
Likely.
It's not in my personality to be callous like that. I'm a human being first kind of person. So I know that if we got it, you could never get me to say, just go start killing people, because I value life so much. It would never come out of my mouth. But I have said some things like doing violence to someone, even, you know, through an example, like punching someone in the face that I disagreed with. Now, do you think I really mean punching someone in the face, or metaphorically punching them in the face?
I mean, at the beginning of this show, I said, if someone almost runs into me one more time because they're on their phone, I'm going to go and physically assault them, knowing darn well I'm not ever going to go and physically assault
So if
someone.
you spend the mornings with us and you get to know us and you know how we speak and how we use some kind of, and I'm not even going to say enraging language, but just part of our personality, how we refer to things, you get to know us, whether or not we're serious about, you know, doing a violent crime against somebody else versus saying we're you know, amplifying something for dramatic effect kind of thing.
You know, and we've sort of talked about this idea with Trump in the past, and some people don't want to hear it. I used to feel more negative feelings towards Donald Trump and the way he carries himself than I do now, because as I watched more and listened more and saw him in different situations and examples, I went, I think a lot of that's for show. I think a lot of that is that sort of knee-jerk reaction, dark humor / sarcasm / facetious nature. I don't even know, but I feel like I bet you the Trump on TV is far different than knowing him in person. And I would wager to guess that's the case in many, many people that you see in the public.
And I agree with that. And I'm annoyed by that, because, you know, if I'm going to have faith in a government that's dumber than I am, I have, it erodes a lot.
Kind of like, we need to know the real you kind of thing.
It would be better. Like, it would be better served to have the belief in people that didn't think you were a blithering idiot in some, you know, settings. And I think he does not do the seat justice by acting and behaving those ways.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, on what I get it, I understand sometimes why he would probably adopt certain personality characteristics and say certain things. I can't imagine what being under that amount of scrutiny constantly. I could totally see him being like, F it, who cares? You're going to twist what I say anyways. I might as well just say this. I get it. But at the same time, you are in a position that is that beneficial to you, or would it be more beneficial to just keep fighting it and keep just being?
If John and I switched places right now and I just became the president, right? Everybody would feel better about having someone who cared so much, who was cautious with their words, wants the best for everybody. Everybody would feel better about me being there. I wouldn't be as effective as he is because of what he's willing to do against the machine. So it's almost like, do you want the more likable person, the one that feels like you're working on your behalf, even if they're incapable of getting anything done? I blame the machine more than I blame Donald Trump. He just happens to be the only person that could punch this machine in its face. I wouldn't be capable or willing to do that in that same spot.
And I think we saw that in this last election where two sides were trying to paint it almost against like personalities. Like, we're voting for personalities here. Do you want the arrogant jerk or do you want the nice person that smiles all the time? And hopefully people go, look, I got to look deeper than that. You could be nice and smile all the time, but be ineffective.
Right. And so when I say that sounds dumber when I'm referring to the president, okay, it's not disparaging. It's an observation in certain settings. Like if the talk and the way that he conducts himself in serious moments, right? There is a right and wrong. If you walk into surgery, right, there are going to be some things that either allows you to be confident in the surgeon and not. That things could come out of their mouth that say are really dumb in the moment, right? And there's some really smart things that they could say in the moment that would give you confidence. I don't know that there's a line of delineation for Trump that says what he really needs to say. So if somebody says a reporter hits him with a question that's in bad faith, right? If you want the president to be a professional, what would a PR person say in that moment? They would get the best value out of responding to that question without creating an enemy that could visit you in the future. So, but Brutus, right, decides to make an enemy in the future that's going to ask him a terrible question the next time and allow him to go further down that rabbit hole of then being mean to everybody, giving red meat to the people who oppose you, making it more polarizing than it was before the moment. So your net gain was you got to be yourself in that deal, even if the proper role of president there is not to be the bouncer, right? You are the master diplomat. You execute things. So when I say if he runs departments well and he gives the freedoms to be able to, execute the laws well and all of the things that matter and are important, I think he does a great job and are really effective what he's willing to do. I have to tolerate the stupid parts where I think he can be a much better human being in the moment than he's willing to be. And that is my big criticism of him.
Well, and I agree. And I also think, though, that it's very difficult to even have him change or be different because they can still make him look however they want to make him look. You know, when Kimmel was talking about, oh, look, he seems real tore up. Somebody said, so sorry about your friend Charlie Kirk. How are you doing? And he instantly talks about the new ballroom. To myself, first reaction was probably, was this a press conference for this ballroom? Was this something that they all said from the get-go, we're not talking about Charlie Kirk today. We're not doing that today. Stick to why we're here. And so he was doing that. Is it like, I'm not getting in on your clickbait here. You're trying to bait me into something. I said, I'm fine. And now I'm getting back to why we're here today. That's all. Those were going through my head, is that reaction made sense. But what was taken from it? Oh, he's really grieved. Oh, look, he has no emotion. Well, he doesn't care.
There's no advantage in him being a better human being. It's not like he would be rewarded if somehow he went and became a master diplomat and a great articulate speaker in the moment and knew all of. I watched these hearings, which I do think that Kash Patel is a very intelligent person and he is very diplomatic and he holds his arguments well. And I watch what they do to him when you act like that. And so okay, well, if you want better, you got to reward the behavior that's better. And then we get to sit around as observers and say, how is this machine? Why is the output of this machine creating really terrible things and really terrible people?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't see the point in Senate hearings. I don't see the point when they're like, oh, whether it's Kash Patel or RFK Jr. or anybody, the woman with CDC who was fired. I didn't watch her hearing yet, but those to me are so ridiculous.
What are they supposed to be, though?
You would think it's supposed to be an opportunity to get information, to ask questions, to receive answers in order to do some sort of audit or transparency of here's what's happening. We need to look into this. We have some questions we need answered to make sure we're on the right track and we're accomplishing what we set out to accomplish. It's none of those things.
Okay, so let me paint the picture for you. So we hold a sales meeting, and I invite all of my my salespeople in the field. We have a sales meeting once a week, and the salespeople tell you everything that they're doing out in the field, how they could make more sales, how they could be better prepared. And then you as a sales manager give them new goals and collect all of their information. And it's a moment that you have dedicated time to collect information from a person that's doing a different thing that you are, and you can relay information.
Mm-hmm.
What if my salespeople came in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I came after them? You are the worst salesperson in the world.
It's you versus them.
Right. So that sales meeting didn't do anything except for you gave a platform for people who don't like each other to throw insults at one another.
Yeah.
There's no information.
What if you had to go to a sales meeting and present information to people that want you fired?
Yeah. Right.
And they want you fired regardless of what kind of job you're doing.
Every question should be, hey, it's been a week since. Has anything changed? What are you working on? You know, what's going on? What's going well? What's not going well? Give us your deal. And then you get to say things, here's going well, here's how to get me prepared. Every one of those hearings should be an exchange between legislators who want to give the department more of what they need to be more effective, and then the person in the field giving you a great representation of what's really happening with details that you might not get. But with how much information they already have access to, they already know that stuff. It's probably relayed to their office every day. So what do you talk about?
I sent that to you. It's a debate of two people on opposite sides instead of somebody working together to make something work. Yeah. They're just the most ridiculous waste of time.
So that is me agreeing with you that, you know, they should at least put a mission statement on what the heck that we're paying for as taxpayers.
So we're going to have Senate hearing, or we're going to go ahead and have a hearing on these people, AKA we're going to do some television if you're interested in watching people fight. That's all it is.
Yeah. Nothing new comes out of it. Julie says, happy. They make me laugh while attacking serious issues. Jerry says, I do believe Joe was wrong yesterday, stating he was interviewing to replace Kelin during yesterday's show. The data does not justify him looking to infer he was doing that. Okay.
What?
Rewatch the tape. Okay. So let me
hold on. Read that. I didn't even hear
let me tell you what happened. So Joe Midlick was here yesterday.
During yesterday's I didn't even see this.
Okay. Joe Midlick was in here yesterday. And I said, Joe, I want to tell the audience that Joe messaged me and said he didn't think Kelin was doing a very good job and he would like to interview for her seat. Right. So Jerry, I was saying he said that, even though he really didn't say that. He said that as making a joke. I never claimed whether or not you were doing a good job or not. So if you'd asked,
listen, did he say that to you?
No.
So then you said it.
I said it to him. I said it to the audience. I made it up. I lied.
You are a rabble rouser.
I rabble roused and said the only reason Joe was here, not to talk about the Oktoberfest, but because he felt he could do a much better job than you would in that seat. And I didn't agree or disagree. I said, let's interview.
You said it to cause problems.
I made up a story. I couldn't help it in the moment.
Thank you, Jerry, for bringing this to my attention. I didn't even see that.
And I will tell you, you still won the seat. Joe has not unseated you. I still am open to someone who is better than you, but they haven't interviewed with me yet.
Rude. Rude.
And thank you for letting me correct the record. Knob Creek, that's the bourbon of choice that I don't really drink Knob Creek. I do Sazerac, I do Buffalo Trace, some of my favorites. Weller's up there is top of my favorites.
How did Knob Creek come up? What?
It's bourbon. I said Julie and I were going to sit around a campfire and have a discussion and smoke cigars. And she was suggesting that we drink some Knob Creek. I'd be willing to. I'm sure I've tasted it, but it's not on my... it's the Constant Lies.
Every damn day. I think she's referring to Trump. Why she doesn't like him.
And when people say this, I wish that everybody got offended by lies, but it's not really what you mean why Trump lies. I want you to get offended anytime someone tells a lie. Just like Joe sitting there wanting your job, total lie and fabrication.
That you made up.
I know. I know. I have no remorse.
I'm so offended
It was
about
still
your
a funny
lie.
joke. It was still a funny joke.
I wish you got offended through lies of your own.
But anyway, I wish when somebody lied, you were outraged by it, where you stopped tolerating everybody from lying. But when it's so focused on only that person lying and everybody else not. So when somebody saying that this was a MAGA assassin, right? And when you hear that and you look at that person saying, I know that's not true, and they absolutely not true. Is that a lie that you're willing to take that person and say, I feel the same way about them as I do about Trump, because they're lying every day. That's what politicians have to lie, because they are captured by their party that requires it.
Do you hate being lied to every day yet still watch national news?
It becomes a joke, right? Because if you pay enough attention to it, you kind of already know what is absolute, what is known, and what's still like hearsay, right? Here's stuff that's still speculation. And when you watch people buy into speculation, unknowable things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody claims it as an absolute.
Yeah.
I'm here curious, wanting to know more so I can decide whether or not I'm yes or no on something. When you watch people who should be a little bit more discriminating on how soon they buy into something, all they have is the ability to blame somebody else. So if they can get someone to say something is true, and then I quote you as saying that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, you lied. And they're like, I was just reporting the New York Post, right? And then it wasn't you that was lying. You were just, so as long as you get one person to lie, then everybody could be, sort of forgiven for having repeated it.
And then even the standards too, the hypocrisy and standards. Like, I love that the same people I heard say I could never vote for a man that would speak that way about a woman is now saying something cruel about the death of Charlie Kirk. And I was like, let's see which is worse. Sexual remark about a woman, joy about the brutal assassination of someone in the public. Funny how your standards, like outrage, okay with it.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. If we establish the standards where everybody bought on to the principles that should guide us. So, basically what you do is take the action that you didn't like and you boil it down to a principle. And then you buy into the principle that supported the bad thing that you didn't like. And you universally applied it towards all people. And that way, everybody is held accountable for going off the reservation, no matter what the reason. So if, like the 10 Commandments, 7 of them are really universal. Like, really, it's hard to disagree with 7 of them. And so if it's like, you shouldn't steal, when you're sitting around a table and saying, okay, well, stealing's bad. I would not want to be stolen from. I don't think other people stealing from them. Let's make a zero justification in any deal for stealing. So if I'm super hungry and I haven't eaten in 4 days and I run up to your stand and I steal your bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've eaten. Now, when I talk to me, I say, yeah, it's understandable why you stole, but you still stole and it's bad. You probably would have been better off walking up to a church or walking up to the stand and say, I'm really hungry. I don't want to steal from you, but do you have anything scrap? That would have been the right thing to do. But if you get one person to say, well, they were hungry, right?
Yeah.
I give them a pass because
and that person
it was
had
justified.
more than they needed anyway.
Then it's no longer a principle. It's like it applies to some people, but under these circumstances, we can take the principle and throw it out the window. The standards are no longer a thing. And then we bastardize language at the same time. Do you think George W. Bush lied when he said there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Is there a difference between being wrong and lying? What's required for a lie? What is a lie?
Difference?
What the heck is a
lie? Is you knowingly give false information.
Okay, so I have to say that you said something that wasn't true,
mm-hmm.
and then I have to tell you why I know it, that you knew that it wasn't true.
Yeah.
That's lying.
That's a lie.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there's 2 parts to it then. So did George W. Bush say something that ended up being not true? He absolutely did. I agree with you. 50% of the metrics on lying has been met. Checked 1 box out of 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to show me how he knew ahead of time that what he was about to say was untrue. So if you say something like, I had a conversation with Bill, and after he went in front of the podium, he was like, I know this isn't true, but I'm going to say it anyway. Lie, right?
Yeah.
But during that era, we were able to take something that we can levy against someone that's effective at hurting their credibility. And even if we were uncertain if it was like, could it have been a lie? Yes, but it was unknown at that point. I'm only at 50% certainty because I only have one of the boxes checked, not both of them. So if we just wait until we know, versus let our emotion push us into what we want to be true, and then use that with absolute language that then someone who doesn't know any better is going to be like, George W. Bush is a liar, and for that reason.
Yeah, and we see this all the time when politicians are running and they say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Then they get in office and either they get more information and say, oh crap, I didn't realize that, or something else happens that is a new variable and they're like, okay, well now it's going to be more difficult. And they're like, you lied. You lied to us when you were running.
You don't even know what these words mean anymore.
Yeah. It's like a lie or things changed. More information came to light.
But that is the true purpose of the media, right? They're not there to, create a brand around themselves and be the center of the attention. They are the bulldogs for the taxpayers and the American people. Their job is not to be oppositional from a partisan basis. It's to be universally oppositional to get down to some kind of truth. So let's just say you said you were going to do tax cuts, right? And you came into office and you're no longer doing tax cuts. So the media's job is to say, hey, you had this campaign promise, right? And I'm completely an objective reporter. You didn't do this thing. I'm really interested to know what changed. And then the politician says some, stump speech about why they did, not really answering the question and saying, oh, you really didn't answer my question. Now, this part of it, tell me exactly, like holding you accountable to get away from the rhetoric and get down to the real information that I can publish in my newspaper. Because I'm not going to say the stump speech. I'm not. That's what your strategy is to obfuscate the information I really. I'm going to keep asking that freaking question, and my neighbor journalist is going to ask that question until I can get to the truth that I can actually print.
Yeah, and instead of just asking a question, I've seen where they will double down on a statement.
Yes.
Just say blah, 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 blah. Well, the truth is blah, blah, blah. So are you saying yada, yada, yada?
Exactly.
No, I'm saying blah, blah, blah. So you don't think that. And it's like, stop telling them what they're doing or saying and just ask a question. But they're trying to get people in this like gotcha moment. And they want something to come out of your mouth that they can then print to sound like you said or didn't say something.
Right. Because that kind of journalist entanglement creates more obfuscating rhetoric, because now you've got to defend, instead of the president or the press secretary coming out and just want to get the information and knowing that the information is going to be fairly treated. The people in that room are adversaries that are going to try to skew what was said. So they got to play a defensive posture on what they say and how they say it, because it's just going to be woven in. I think everybody who writes a mistruth or creates a partisan slant on information that gets delivered to the public should be reprimanded, and there should be consequences for those people.
Let's have some Senate hearings for journalists. Hey, what did you print? What did they actually say? Why did you do this?
And I asked my kid, like the audit is the most important part, right, of all government action. So we were talking about the other day about auditing teachers. I said, for schools to know what's really happening in their school, who would you want to audit? Would you want to audit the teachers, or would you want to talk to the teachers about the audit? Or would you want to talk to the students and what the students say about the teachers? What's the upside and downside to getting a measurement of what the school is producing by taking the teacher's account for what they're doing and what actions they're taking, or the students who just got to experience that teacher, and either with the tests that they got, or the ideas that are in their head, or their ability to learn and do something? Which would you choose?
The students.
The students?
I would, me personally, I'd be curious for both.
Okay.
I'd want to see what the intention was and how it was received. But I definitely want to hear from the students. Okay.
And the auditor would be an objective journalist. They're collecting data about what's in the minds of a person that's coming out of an institution that sculpts minds, right? Mm-hmm. So you'd ask them questions all over the spectrum. Things about their academic pursuits, of how many books they've read and what type of courses they're taking and what their life is like, but also ideals that are missing, things that are not part of that, and wondering why those things are such a void in the experience of schooling. Because if you want to craft teaching people how to learn and getting curious and attracted to the things that they don't know, you want to know what they don't know and why they don't know it. Because the clever part of cultural control isn't necessarily what they do tell you, because they're really good at covering their bases on what they do tell you. It's the stuff they don't tell you and how it came to be that thing is universally a void in all of their experiences. Because it can't just be by chance that there's a missing piece, but everybody's has the same missing piece. You see what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's a clear thing here that we're not
getting.
So
if every journalist is asking the same type of questions, and there's certain ones that are not being asked. When I'm auditing journalists, I want to know, like, if you took a 12th grader that was writing for their school newspaper and they were writing about a story, they'd have a method to be able to take the information and get it to the rest of the student population, right? Mm-hmm. There'd be curiosities, there'd be methods. And then I take a journalist who's covering politics, and they're not going to be the same, right? There's going to be some differences between authentic journalism and then the curated journalism that happens. And I want to know what makes a political journalist so devoid from taking information, running it through a machine that gets that information as quickly and with as much detail as they possibly can to the public. Why are they so much different? But I think if we had a hearing for journalists, it would just be a court case. Because if you ever gone to court, you ever watch a court case from start to finish? Do you feel like court is really a dance, or just a lot of people in a room trying to get to the truth?
Oh, I think if you've got like attorneys and prosecutors and defense involved, yeah, it's very just sort of this dance game.
It's a game.
Yeah.
Exactly right. But in its true form, if a bunch of 12-year-olds or 12th graders were trying to make their own court and they want to get to truth, if the whole mission statement is get to the truth, they would not reinvent a court system, right? They wouldn't come up with that. If they had some kind of problem and they had a couple of people that they would want to know fairness and justice and consequences for telling the truth. Like if you lied one time, right? Could you ever be on a panel that were trying to discover truth? No, you would never.
Yeah.
Just like if you were
discredited.
If you were a person that's stolen, you would never be at the front desk at a bank, right? You wouldn't, because you've obviously, part of your character is that you don't know how to be truthful or not steal money from the deal. There are enough other people that are good, that don't steal, that don't tell lies. That's the people that need to be trying to dig for truth.
We don't do anything that actually makes sense.
That's true. That's why I told you we're doomed.
We are. Carter says gold medal for lying would be Adam Schiff. Jerry says, have you ever watched Gutfeld, and what are your thoughts?
Gutfeld has moments. I don't
know who that is.
Greg Gutfeld, he has a Fox News. He's a comedian. He hosts his own show. He was with The Five before, and not my brand of comedy. I do not think he is funny at all. He's had some impassioned speeches where I have respect for the passion that he puts behind his words, but he's no better than Jimmy Kimmel. He's using a partisan slant to talk to conservatives, use a brand of comedy that, peppers in parts. And that's just not my deal. I want to make fun of the world and make fun of social causes. I don't want people to be partisan and support social causes using comedy as their...
I've even seen when Carolyn Leavitt does the press secretary, she's like addressing the press and stuff like that. You can tell which side a reporter's on by the way they phrase their question.
Yes, for sure.
Like there's a dude who's, I think he's with Fox News. He's at all this stuff. And he is so complimentary.
Peter Ducey is who you're talking about.
Is he kind of like light hair, real tall?
Yes.
Yes. He's so complimentary to the right and to Trump and to them. And he asked these questions that's almost like, isn't this ridiculous, Kelin, that the left is blah, blah, blah. I want to be like, is that a question or a statement? And then
you flirting, one of the two.
Yeah. And then you have the other girl, long dark hair. What is she with CNN? Like,
Carolyn.
Yeah, they like give her crap all the
or
time.
Caitlin Collins. Not Carolyn.
Yes. And then you can tell what side she's on. And I'm just like,
yeah,
we get some unbiased in this room?
That is the dance, the prosecutor and the defense. That is the dance that journalists play. And I look around saying, there's no teams in this room. All of you are taking information back to constituents. There should be no, I'm on your team when you're talking to someone. I remember Jim Acosta. I like and hate him. Right? Because when he's in bulldog mode, he is very effective at being just enough mean, right? To make a statement, get an answer, get a question. And I love the fact that he beats up on politicians. But then you put Jim Acosta in front of a friendly, and he's like, "What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you had me because you were freaking mean, and you need to punch everybody in the face." But he's just a douchebag now who's a partisan hack, posing as a journalist.
All of them are on a side.
That's it.
And all it is this game of who can make the other side look bad or look good. And it's like, when do we get actual information?
Well, and that's why I blame Peter Doocy just as much as I do Jim Acosta, because he knows that the president appeals to compliments. So to get good information, you give me like manipulating the press secretary, offering a compliment, and now you speak nicer to me and you give me one from information than if I phrased it differently and get no information.
Yeah, everybody who's against Trump is asking questions, trying to get him to say something incriminating in this gotcha moment. It's all a setup. And then everybody who's for Trump is a giant brown noser that isn't asking any tough questions. They're just giving them these like volleys to make him look good. And I'm just like, this is so pointless.
So here's what we do. We do it like selective service. Right? We put everybody that lives close enough to Washington, D.C., and we maybe create double the amount of alternates. And the press pool is made up of people. Your name gets selected, you show up, you get to ask the president questions like a town hall, but every day the president is covered by real people that are above 18 that have their own interests and whatever, and they ask the question. I will bet you that press conference is better than anyone that we've had in a decade.
Is that not what Charlie Kirk did?
What? With students?
Real
100%,
people.
100%.
Real people sat in front of real people, real questions,
That's exactly
everyday
right.
people.
That's what we need to do. We need to get
them.
professional journalism out and put real people in front of the president, ask questions that are really important to them.
And what has everybody been saying? And they killed him for it.
Yep.
Joseph says, Kelin, I wasn't interviewing. I'm retired and love it.
Yeah.
Joe,
he has defended himself.
Joseph, this Joe just like threw you under the bus.
Your Honor, this is inadmissible. I strike from the record. Joe has not been sworn in. What he says doesn't matter. Midlick, not me. I've been sworn in. When a lie affects the country because of his position, it is intolerable. I knew Joe was being facetious, Kelin. But I'll take that further. Not only when a lie hurts somebody, lie in principle, even if it didn't connect. Like if you shoot at somebody and you don't end up hitting, I'm not like, well, he didn't die, so shooting at him shouldn't matter. If you're going to take, I don't want lies, you are not going to permit some of them to be okay and not without consequence, even if you didn't reach the target. If I throw a punch at you and I don't make contact, did I assault you? I at least tried to. Even if it was thwarted, I tried to assault you.
Made someone feel threatened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carter says, you mean like, I won't pardon Hunter.
A lie.
I'm about out of energy. This was an intense one, Kelin. We ready to get out of here?
Time.
All right. Tomorrow we have the MLO Bros. Allegedly going to be back on the show. So make sure you tune in for those dudes. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Julie and Carter, you guys are all in perfect behavior today. Like there wasn't any, your questions were good. Your comments were good. And I appreciate that.
And we all get along on this show.
Yeah. And all of us drinking bourbon and smoking cigars.
Yeah. World peace starts here.
World peace.
All
right. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on